Boss Hong. The story you're about to hear is true, and it happened right here in Thailand. In Nakhon Si Thammarat province, there's a district where if you mention the name Thao Kai Hong, everyone in the market knows him. It is said that Boss Hong followed his parents from China when he was a child. His parents worked as rubber tappers and were very poor. Even though they had lived in Thailand for 10 years, Mr. Hong's parents never became wealthy or built a stable financial foundation like typical Chinese people from China. This was because Boss Hong's father was a gambler. He gambled away all the money he earned, leaving his wife and children to live in poverty and hardship. Mr. Hong, being the son of Chinese immigrants, didn't get to go to school. He lived with his parents until he was 12 years old, then ran away and became a homeless person in the provincial town. Eventually, a noodle shop owner took them in as employees out of pity, and also because he saw them as fellow Chinese descent, so he didn't abandon them. Mr. Hong was a diligent and thrifty young man. He would save whatever money he earned and refused to spend it on unnecessary things. He was very well liked by the noodle shop owner. When Hong was 17 years old, his boss trusted him enough to let him collect money from customers on his behalf. This is when Mr. Hong revealed his true nature. He began to cheat his boss little by little. Meanwhile, Mr. Hong fell in love with the noodle shop owner's eldest daughter, and they secretly had an affair. She became pregnant, leaving the noodle shop owner with no choice but to reluctantly arrange a wedding. Now that he was officially the boss's son-in-law, instead of stopping his wicked deeds and feeling remorse, he persuaded his wife, who was in charge of the accounting, to help him embezzle money from her father as well. Meanwhile, Mr. Hong gradually took over his father-in-law's business, gaining the trust of customers even more than his father-in-law, the shop owner. One year before Chinese New Year, the boss checked the accounts and almost fainted because the factory was drowning in debt. When he found out that his son-in-law and daughter had betrayed and cheated him, he got into a fight with them, almost killing each other. Mr. Hong showed no fear or gratitude towards his father-in-law. He said, "Why was my father-in-law so stupid to let himself be cheated? It was unavoidable." His wife, or the boss's daughter, also sided with her husband, Mr. Hong, exclusively. Eventually, Mr. Hong and his wife left home with a large sum of money in the bank. His father-in-law was left to bear the debt alone because no one knew the truth that his son-in-law had cheated them. Mr. Hong and his wife moved to the district. He continued his work making noodles, his usual craft, and at the same time he got to know some police officers and government officials. Later, he started engaging in illegal mining, but he didn't do it on a scale that attracted much attention from the authorities. Because Mr. Hong was stingy and didn't spend extravagantly, he quietly became wealthy, and his wealth continued to grow. Surprisingly, dishonest people became wealthy, to the point that the people in the market called Mr. Hong Boss Hong. Boss Hong bought 3 more shop houses and opened a large grocery store, and money continued to flow in. More than 10 years passed. Mr. Hong grew older, and his 4 children, 1 son and 3 daughters, were growing into young adults. Mr. Hong sent them all to study in Bangkok, hoping they would receive the highest possible education, as he himself lacked formal education. As for Mr. Hong's father-in-law, he's already passed away. He died of grief and heartbreak after being cheated by his son-in-law, and then his daughter helped him cheat as well. As for my mother-in-law, she's devoted herself to religion and doesn't get involved in worldly affairs, leaving her remaining children to work and run their own businesses to support themselves. There's another thing that's worth mentioning. After Boss Hong became successful and wealthy, his parents came to him asking for financial help. However, Boss Hong refused to help them with even a single penny. He even insulted his parents, saying they raised him like a piglet, letting him starve until he couldn't bear it anymore and ran away from home. The reason he built his life and fortune is because of his own hard work. His parents never shared in his difficulties. Why would they ask him for money for free? He wouldn't give it to them. Boss Hong's parents were so moved, they burst into tears. From that day on, we never saw either of them again. Then, in 1983, Boss Hong took a mistress who was a nightclub singer. This woman was very charming, which made Boss Hong infatuated with her and shower her with unlimited money. The family began arguing almost every day. Boss Hong's wife was deeply distressed and heartbroken by her husband's infidelity. Compounded by her jealousy, she became violent and refused to stop, eventually leading to a humiliating physical altercation. Eventually, his wife couldn't bear the suffering any longer, so she bought pesticide and drank it, then died a tragic death. See? Boss Hong's wife, an ungrateful daughter who conspired with her husband to cheat their parents for the sake of wealth without considering the sin and the heartbreak she caused them, is the first to receive her just punishment. Later, Mr. Hong's 4 children learned the reason behind their mother's suicide, and furthermore, Mr. Hong openly brought a new wife into the house. The children were heartbroken and began living in defiance of their father, neglecting their studies and spending their days hanging out with bad friends. Because Boss Hong loved his son and probably felt deep down that he was the one who had done wrong, he sent his son more money as a way of appeasing him. The children then started spending lavishly, becoming even more extravagant and engaging in heavy drinking and debauchery. The misfortune began for Boss Hong, and it only intensified. Lately, he'd been arrested repeatedly for illegal mining, forcing him to spend a large sum of money to drop the cases. He succeeded, but at a cost of millions of baht. Boss Hong's finances were becoming tight because he had nothing but expenses. He had to pay his children, and his mistress was squandering money due to her gambling addiction. But Boss Hong didn't dare dissuade her because he was so infatuated with her. Later, the noodle factory had to close down because it was losing money every month and no one was taking care of it. Before his wife committed suicide, she was running the business, and it was somewhat profitable. After his wife died, the employees easily embezzled the money, and eventually, the factory couldn't survive. Boss Hong was very worried because his debts were increasing steadily lately. His finances were tight, and he was being hounded by debt collectors every day. To relieve his stress, he turned to alcohol, and his drinking became increasingly heavy. One day, he got extremely drunk, tripped and fell in the bathroom, hitting his head on the floor. He suffered a cerebral hemorrhage, resulting in complete paralysis of the left side of his body, although he can still walk somewhat with constant assistance. The sins he had committed came back to haunt him immediately. As if that wasn't enough, his young wife, a former nightclub singer, swept up a large sum of cash and abandoned him, fleeing to Bangkok and never returning to Nakhon again. I don't know how much pain and bitterness Boss Hong must be feeling, finding himself in a situation where he's practically penniless. The man who was once the wealthiest in the district is about to become homeless and neglected. He's also semi-disabled, with no chance of ever regaining his former prosperity. Fortunately, Boss Hong's 4 children returned to live with him. They had all dropped out of school and were unemployed, so they continued the grocery business. They had to sell 2 of their shop houses to pay off some of their debts, leaving them with only 1 room to live in. They managed to make a living from their business without starving. These days, hardly anyone ever sees Boss Hong because he's secluded in his upstairs room day and night. He might sit or lie there, reminiscing about his past life, when he was incredibly wealthy, happy with a beautiful mistress, and able to eat and buy whatever he wanted with the power of money. But today, he has nothing left but living day by day. If Mr. Hong had taken the time to sit and reflect on the sins he had committed against others, accepting his guilt and the law of karma, and taught his 4 sons that the consequences of evil deeds don't have to wait until the next life to face them, that the karma will catch up with them immediately in this life, then things would have been different. This story should serve as a cautionary tale for many, urging those who are living or behaving in this way to stop. Karma will eventually catch up with them, just as it did for Boss Hong. Thank you for listening to Thai Local Tales. I'm Captain Piroj. Until our next journey together, take care, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next episode.